Sitting here doing a reset over holiday weekend. This place is a still life painting. So I've got 7 hours and 29 minutes on my clock for my 70. So I figured with it being holiday weekend, I might as well just shut it down. Still fighting with the truck, but I knew it would be this way when I bought the truck. You buy a used truck, you buy used truck problems. My first truck, my next truck, this truck, they're all doing the same thing. And it's a little bit of money to start. This month I probably dropped $7,000 just fixing things. And what's stupid is I still got to buy steer tires. So you bought your new truck. You bought your first truck. Should you lease it on to somebody or should you get your own authority? Well, I got an argument for both. And ain't nobody going to be happy. Ain't nobody going to be 100% happy with me after this video, but this is my views, and, well, I'd give you a middle finger, but this is YouTube. Anyhow, let's get started. So I did a bit of research on this, and I'm going to tell you this. Anything anybody said that they did 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, throw it out the window about getting your own authority. Those days are gone. I know guys that'll argue with me on that, but those days are gone. Insurance is prohibitively expensive. Your authority won't build any age or be activated until you put insurance on it. So the old days of us getting an authority and letting it sit for a year or two to mature, those days are gone. Things are much more expensive now. But does that mean you shouldn't get your own authority? Of course not. So, if you want to get your own authority and do all that, there's quite a few things. But it also depends on how much you're making, what your freight rate is, what trailer you're pulling, where you're going to be running. There are so many different things that factor into this. Now, anybody can get their own authority and their own insurance and all that. But one of the biggest problems that guys are having now is how do you get paid? Factoring companies have popped up everywhere. And one of the problems is that factoring companies, much like a lot of these brokerages that call you up 35 times a day, have become very predatory. It's almost impossible to get out of them. Some of these actually require like up to 120 to 160 days notice in writing to get out of it. And they take a lot of money. Now, in the world of direct pay and things like that, factoring companies, they serve a purpose for guys that are just starting, but unfortunately, it's one of those deals that comes back to bite you in the end. The best way I can describe a factoring company is basically like the check cashing place on the corner. It's going to do what you need it to do, and it's going to take a huge chunk when it gives you your money. But that's what factoring companies do. They allow you to get capital built up when you're starting out. If you absolutely have to use a factoring company, which you don't absolutely have to do anything, but if you feel like you need to get started, find one that has no long-term contracts. The best thing that's advertised is probably not going to be the best thing. Be very careful. So, what about leasing on to somebody? Well, leasing on to somebody is also kind of a double-edged sword. You run their authority, you run their fuel card, you get their tire discounts. But what are they taking out? Or are they paying you properly? So then you run into that. You're either over here fully independent, about to lose your shirt, or you're over here getting your shirt taken off you. That's why it's important to have an idea of what you want to do. Also, getting your own authority versus having your own depends on what kind of freight you're hauling. Now, I did the math one time for where I'm working and what I'm doing. And I realized that with my own authority, my own insurance, hiring somebody to do my bookkeeping and all that, I'm a sole proprietor. I don't have an LLC. And having my own business, if I had any other assets other than the truck, I might actually start an LLC. But that being said, the cost of doing that would outweigh the benefits of the extra percentage that I would get doing this. I figured it out, and on paper, it's a lot of money that I would be making. But after everything else, including the hike in insurance, which is it would more than double it, honestly. About 1.5 times more than what I'm already paying, at least for the first year. I would come out basically a wash. So why? But also, what trailer you have has a lot to do with it, because so many of these companies now are dropping hook. If this company that you want to drive for is a lot of dropping hook, but you have your own trailer and all that, yeah, you can pull your own trailer and make a lot more percentage and use them as a dispatching company. But what's the point? If they take out an extra, little bit for a trailer lease, well, my company doesn't charge one, which is nice. But if they take out, an extra 5% for a trailer lease, but you're able to turn 2 or 3 more loads and drop the majority of what you're doing, that might be worth it. So that's something to think about. But also, I do know with current things going on, there's another thing that we're dealing with. Because of California's AB5, which is threatening to infect the rest of the country, it already has. All the owner-operators that live in California are out here screwing up our freight. That's not a joke. Get out on any major interstate, and the amount of trucks with California plates is stunning. But it does limit you to what you can do because of these kind of rules. Now, a lot of guys just don't go to California anymore. I don't. But having your own authority and your own permits can open a few more doors for you if that's what you like to do and that's where you like to go. I do know that when I was, I've done flatbed, I've done grain hopper, and I discovered that certain kind of industries, even if you're leased on, you want to own your own trailer. Flatbedding is one of them. Now, if you're just pulling regular skateboard, but if you got an RGN or you have a, drop deck or something like that, so you can make some money. I would buy that trailer. Grain hopper, definitely. I remember though, one time I was talking to a guy, owned his own truck, owned his own trailer, but at the time the margins were so narrow that it was almost a wash. So I sat there and we were going over some numbers because I was wanting to buy my first truck. Man, this is back in 2001, 2002. I was thinking about buying my first truck, and I didn't know where I was going to come up with $24,000. But I talked to one of our guys. He had his own grain wagon, and he realized that the payment was $25 less a week than the lease. I remember thinking, if it comes down to $25, we might be doing something wrong. I didn't know how wrong I was then, or how right I was then, but so owning your own trailer as an owner-operator is one of those things that you really have to weigh heavily. There's a lot of guys right now that own their own trailers that have actually dropped them and are pulling company trailers because they're making more money. And a lot of these guys are power only, and a lot of these guys are leased on to companies. Keeps looking like it might rain over there, but I think we're done this week. It's nice that way, but yeah. So what is power only? Well, power only is basically what I do. I own the truck. I haul somebody else's trailer. Power only is starting to be a big thing. A lot of guys with their own authorities are doing power only for a lot of the major carriers, and they're making good money doing it. So is that what you want to do? There's money in it, but now I know I've thrown a lot at you real quick. I'm not trying to tell people not to get their own authority. There's a lot of advantages to it, but there's also a lot of responsibilities. I'm talking about the brand new guy, the guy fresh out of being a company guy, the guy that doesn't really. Here's the thing. I'd been driving for a long time when I bought my first truck. 15 years, easily, 15, 16 years. And I went and I crunched numbers. I did everything. I got numbers from the company. I asked what was going to happen, this, that, pay, this, that, everything. I crunched every number known to man. I was 100% wrong on all of them because the information is only as good as the source. And they were wrong, and everything was wrong. I made no money. And of course, I was with the wrong company as an owner-operator. But I was running under their authority, using their insurance and their tags and all that. So, yeah, this is why I'll never work for mileage again. So, you have to decide which direction you're going to go. And truthfully, as a brand new owner-operator, I would highly recommend starting off slow. So what do I mean by starting off slow? Well, you've got to get your feet wet. Everything you think you know, it's like everything was the same and everything was different. Suddenly you were on the other side of a divider looking at the same thing, but through a different lens. Suddenly you have skin in the game, and suddenly things are very serious. And this is why I'm telling you, if you want to get your feet wet, but you know, and you're getting ready to go, if you don't have some good mentorship, which a lot of people don't anymore, you need to get on with someone you trust. And this is why I say for at least the first year, start out slow, use somebody else's fuel card, use their tire discounts, use their maintenance program, use all of this and get yourself familiar. There was such a learning curve that, you know, you kind of have to, you got to take it slow. Now, here's the thing. Like I said earlier, the way they were doing it 10, 15 years ago, it's not that way anymore. Insurance, like I said, is prohibitively expensive. Getting your authority is the easy part. Figuring out everything else is the hard. Buddy of mine, he actually, he's got his own authority and all that, but he hires a gal to do his fuel, do his IFTA, do all his authority paperwork. It's a reasonable price. It is. It's a couple $100 a month, but it's all done. Every time he gets paid or gets an invoice or whatever, emails it to her, she does it. There are people like that out here that are willing to help you. So I know what you're saying. Well, Dave, if you're so smart, why don't you have your own authority? Answer's pretty simple. Getting my own authority is one of the things that I've thought a lot about. I've discovered this stuff. I absolutely love it. It's kind of weird, but I am drinking more water, so that's good. Getting my own authority, yes, I've thought a lot about it. I have done the numbers, I've crunched, and that's how I knew that with what I'm doing at this particular time, it wasn't viable. There are programs out there for fuel, fuel cards for independents and tire discounts and things of that nature. But I'm hauling refrigerated, and most of my stuff is drop and hook. So I could get my own authority and actually pull, like I said, pull these guys' trailers and do literally the same thing. But for what I'm paying in percentage, or what I'm losing in percentage, they're doing my fuel, they're doing my billing, they're doing my IFTA, they're doing my dispatching. And the difference in percentage just isn't worth that right now. At least not for me. Not for this particular level of freight. And on top of that, when I take the truck to Kenworth or the shop, I get some bodacious discounts. Great discounts. I get discounts on tires. I get discounts on fuel. My discounts on fuel is $10,000 to $12,000 a year easily. So that's something to think about. Now you can get discounts similar to that through some of these third-party fuel cards. Be very careful on those. One of these days I'll talk about that. Oh great, now this is flipping out. But that's why I don't have my own authority. I've toyed with the idea. I just can't make the numbers work. Now, if I ever leave here, I probably will. But insurance is a big deal too. Insurance is very expensive. So, yeah, that's why. Now, don't get me wrong, there are very definite advantages to having my own authority. I actually could pull these guys' trailer, go home, hook onto mine, do a run or two, drop my trailer, and come back and haul their stuff again. You can do that. You know, I'd have to buy a trailer. But it's just something I've been thinking about for a while. What's the advantages? What's the disadvantages? It's kind of 50-50 depending on what you're doing. I'm not going to tell you to do it, and I'm not going to tell you not to do it. There are very definite advantages to not doing it. There's very definite disadvantages to not doing it too. Now here's the thing. If you're with the right company and you're hauling their trailers, like I am, you can just take whatever time you want off. And truthfully, this is why I do it. It's just because I enjoy my off time. Life is short and I'm getting older. And they don't micromanage me. So that's nice. But you know, it's kind of, like I said, give and take. Now, I have talked to quite a few guys that, you know, have leased on to companies like Landstar. I looked at working for them. Now, we were all curious about it, and I've talked to several drivers about this. It seems like they take a big percentage for being just a dispatching company. But, and this is, you know, you get, if you have your own trailer, you get more percentage. If you have different axles, there's all sorts of rates and formulas you get for working on it. Now, I'm not an advertisement for this company, but on the surface, it seemed like a bad deal. However, there's a lot of people working there, and a lot of people are making money. So, they're obviously doing something right. At least that's been my opinion of it. But a lot of guys use their authority. A lot of guys just use them for the dispatching service. It all depends on what you're wanting to do. Do you own your own trailer? Are you going to pull one of yours? So you kind of have to figure that out. So if you're going to go to work for a company like them, is it worth getting your own authority? I think working for somebody like them would be a mixed bag. I think yes, no. I think you can go either way on that. And that's something else you have to think about. Sitting here going over this video and realized I've been all over the board with it. Let's get back to the topic. Should you or shouldn't you? Well, like I said, that's up to you. I truly believe that just starting out, you should probably, in my personal opinion, just lease on to somebody as a sole proprietor, get your feet wet. I got a lot of bad advice when I bought my first truck. But like I've said before, with a lot of people that didn't have any skin in the game. I'm trying not to give you bad advice, and truthfully, I'm just giving you my opinion, and I really don't want to give you too much advice. These are things that you have to figure out on your own. Some of the bad advice I got was basically Facebook logic. Guys, if you have a question, go to the people that know the answers. Don't go to Facebook or Google. Excuse me. Google actually will be better than Facebook. But, for instance, I was told I had to have an LLC. It protects you. I believe that lie. And it is a lie. It only protects you so far. But if the business is you, they're coming after you. That's... and this is why people get lawyers. So if you get your own, if you get your own authority, find a lawyer, because you're going to need it. You're going to need a transportation lawyer. You're probably going to need a ticket lawyer, and a criminal attorney. Honestly, just have these guys scoped out. Now, when I talked about LLC, everybody kept telling me I needed to get one. So I went and talked to my accountant about that. And she said, first of all, you're going to spend more money. Why are you going to spend more money to accomplish absolutely nothing? I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? It's going to protect me. She said, protect you from what? Well, if I get sued. She's like, they're going to sue the company. She's like, yes. Who's the company? Well, my trucking company. She said, the trucking company's you. Your only asset with your company is you. So hold off on that LLC until you figure out what you're doing. And make sure you get a good tax attorney. Now, if you go out on your own, with your own numbers and all that, I would say do the LLC. Talk to your attorney about that, and your bookkeeper, and get everything set up, because you may want to expand. You might. And one of these days we'll do a video on that. Got horror stories on that. But for just leasing onto somebody, don't. You need to figure out ways to set your business up properly. And from leasing onto somebody to actually having all your own numbers, it's a world different. So take your time and figure it out. Now, you're like, I know you're looking at me like, take my time. I got to make some money. I have this truck payment. Yes, you do. If you lease onto somebody, you can put that truck to work immediately. Not only that, you can build up a little nest egg, so when you do want to get your own numbers, you can go. And you don't have to use a factoring company. So how much money do you need? Well, I've been asking out, and I've been talking to a lot of guys that did this, and it's a lot. The general consensus of how much money you need to have starting on your own, with your own authority and all that, take your month's fuel bill, times it by 5. You're going to need $20,000 to $25,000 to sit on. And you're going to spend a good chunk of that within the first month till the money starts rolling in. When you leased onto a company, you get paid pretty dang quick. And you can start building immediately. That's not a bad deal. But with your own authority and all that, you're going to need a good chunk of money. This is why I say leased onto somebody, save your money, and at the end of the year, if you do it right, you should have $25,000 to $30,000 set aside for you to do exactly this. And I want you guys to do that so you don't have to get trapped into a dispatching service or a factoring company. There's a lot of dispatchers there. There's a lot of brokers out there. And truthfully, there's a lot of load boards out there that you can buy into with these services. They really don't cost that much, and you can get direct pay. So if you can get direct pay, why would you send your money through somebody else so they can take a cut to give you less money than what you worked for? Something to think about. So I've thrown a lot at you, in this short period of time. My whole goal on this video was just to give you something to think about. Really didn't accomplish anything with this video, but I threw out a bunch of questions that you need to ask. What kind of trailer am I going to be pulling? What kind of freight am I going to be hauling? Where am I going to be running? You know, these are things you need to know. To where do I need to buy a trailer? Do I need to lease a trailer? And truthfully, if you're not sure about buying or leasing, lease a trailer for a couple of months to see if it's something you need to do. You know, it's going to be a little expensive, but yeah, it would be better to do that than buying a trailer and finding out you don't want to do this and end up with a lot of payments. Now, before I go, I'm going to let you in on one of the scams with trailers that a lot of these companies are doing. They're charging a trailer lease. They offer you a big percentage, but then when it all comes down to it, a good chunk of that percentage is going towards the lease. I remember a guy that in my hometown that was working for a local company, and they were charging him $400 a week. Oh, I'm making 80% as an owner-operator. It's like, yeah, they're charging me $400 a week to haul their trailer. And it wasn't drop and hook. It was all live, unload, load, and it was all live. And I said, dude, that's a truck payment. I said, in fact, in 1 year, you bought these guys 2 more dry vans. I mean, they were hauling dry vans. At the time, you could pick up a good used dry van for $8,000. And I remember thinking, you're buying them a new trailer every 9 months. Why would you spend that kind of money? So that's one of those things that a lot of these companies will try to stick you with a trailer lease. And understandably, if it's, you know, well, I'm not even going to go there. If they want to make you pay for refrigerated fuel, though, and it's their trailer, you tell them to go stick it. Because chances are, if they're not, they're taking part of your fuel surcharge. So make sure that doesn't happen either. Fuel and trailers are kind of a big scam towards owner-operators out here. Find yourself a company that takes care of all its own stuff and lets you keep your money. So as I stated, I've been all over the board. These are just questions you need to ask yourself. That's it. Just questions. You need to know what you want to do, where you want to do it, and how you want to do it. This is a progression. This is why I kept saying start slow. You're not going to hit a home run your first year. You're probably not going to hit a home run your second year. This takes time. I've been an owner-operator for 7-8 years now. And good grief, has it been that long? Yeah, it has. My first 2 to 3 years as an owner-operator was very rough. It was just me figuring it out. And having to have my own numbers and insurance and everything on top of that would have been a complete disaster. I mean, I would have gone broke because, well, the company I was working for was crap and didn't pay their owner-operators. But I guess that was my fault for staying for them as long as I did. Start slow. Work your way up. Have a plan. And your plan's going to change. Like I said, all my numbers were wrong. But eventually, as I got smarter in the business, as I grew in the business, I started figuring it out. I started figuring out my numbers. I started figuring out my lanes. I started figuring out all of these other things. And getting my own authority or leasing on somebody is something that I struggled with for quite some time. Because 20 years ago, it wouldn't have even been a question. I would have got my own authority, my own insurance, I'll be doing my own thing. This isn't 20 years ago. Things have changed, and the business has gotten more expensive and tougher. And sometimes I think by design. There's a part of me that thinks the powers that be in Washington are trying to run us out of business. You can't control an owner-operator. At least not like they want to. Yeah. Guys, these are just questions you have to ask yourself. Getting your own authority can be very beneficial, but leasing onto somebody can also be very beneficial. So, weigh the options, take your time. You don't have to do it tomorrow, and figure it out. Like I've said before, all I want you guys is to be profitable. I know I sounded like I've been rambling in this video, but I've thrown out more questions and answers and just sat out there and just shot question after question, and I just want to provoke thought, because this is something that's life-changing and can either make you or break you. So don't be afraid of failure. It might happen, but then again, it might go completely the other way. Be profitable out there, guys, and don't be afraid to take a chance. And if you figure out this is what you want to do, I'll tell you to go for it. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next video.